Please state your full name for the record, name.
Mark A.B. Torre.
And what is your
T-O-R-R-E.
and what is your occupation?
Guam Police Lieutenant.
And how long have you been with the Guam Police Department?
About 27 years.
And are you the father of the defendant, Officer Mark A. Torre Jr.?
Yes, sir.
And do you reside at 140 Tomas Anday Street in Jigo?
Yes, sir.
And who all resides there with you?
Well, I actually moved into the home next door.
Right, but back in July 13, 2015, who resided with you?
Myself, my wife Deanne, our daughters Madison and Megan, our son Mark Jr., his wife Julia, our granddaughter Maya, and my mom.
Okay, if you can describe the layout of the home. How many stories is the home back in July 13, 2015?
3 stories.
3 stories. Okay, who lives on the first story at
First
that
story,
time?
my mom.
Okay, and on the second story, who lived there?
My son Mark with his family, Julia and Maya, their daughter.
And on the third floor, who resided there?
Myself, my wife Deanne, our daughters Madison and Megan.
On July 12, 2015, in the afternoon, who were you with that afternoon, that Sunday afternoon?
My son Marky.
Okay, and what were you and your son doing?
Early afternoon, we decided to watch the UFC fights.
Okay, and were you or both of you drinking alcohol?
Yes,
What were you both drinking?
beer.
Do you recall how many beers you had that afternoon watching the UFC?
No.
Okay. And until what time did you, you and your son watch TV? Watch the UFC championship?
Fights usually start about 11, the prelim fights and the actual fights, we start till about maybe noon or 1.
Okay.
So up until maybe 2 or 3.
Okay. And were you with your son the rest of the day of July 12, 2015?
Yes,
Where?
at home.
Okay. And do you recall what time he left home that Sunday?
I do not recall. I didn't see him leave.
Okay. Do you know where your daughter-in-law Julia Torre was that Sunday afternoon?
Not till later on.
Okay. But at that time you didn't, when you say later on, when did you find out later on where she was?
Maybe the next day.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you exactly when.
Okay. Now, I draw your attention to the early morning hours of July 13th, 2015, around 2 a.m. Or let me ask you this, let me back up. Do you recall what time you went to bed, went to sleep on Sunday, July 12, 2015?
I'd say maybe 9 o'clock, sir.
9 o'clock, okay. And when was the next time you woke up?
After 2 a.m.
After 2 a.m.?
the next morning.
And why did you wake up around 2 a.m.?
My wife awoke me to a phone call on my phone.
On your phone?
Yes,
And who was calling on your phone at that time?
my daughter-in-law Julia.
And what did Julia say to you?
She asked, Dad, can you come downstairs, please?
Okay, and how did she ask it? What was the tone or manner of her voice?
Just the way I presented it, sir.
What do you mean by the way you presented?
Dad, can you come downstairs, please?
So how would you describe that, as a calm voice?
Yes.
Excuse me, so there was no alarm or concern?
No.
Okay. And when she said that, what did you say to her?
I said, okay.
Okay, and then what did you do immediately after telling her okay?
I got out of bed. I looked outside the sliding glass window, which is right behind my bed.
Okay, then when you face your house from the roadway, are your windows on the very left set of sliding door windows, or the right side, or both?
Can you?
When you're on the roadway facing your home, and you look at the second floor, how many sliding windows do you have there? Looking out to the roadway?
2.
2? Okay, where is your bedroom located?
At that time, it was to the right.
It was to the right,
Yes.
if you're facing from the road.
No, if you're on the road, you're facing the house, it'll be to the right, so my left looking out.
Okay, so it'll be your left looking out.
Yes.
So would it be fair to say that that's the window that's not necessarily underneath the carport, but to the right of it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And when you looked out the window, what did you see?
I saw a pickup truck, I don't recall the color, in front of the driveway, facing downhill, more towards the south.
And did you recognize whose pickup that was?
No.
And what else did you see besides the pickup?
I saw my son's face.
Okay, where
on
was he located?
The driver's side, standing outside of the driver's, inside, the driver's door was open. He was standing in between the driver's door and the driver's seat.
Okay, and you say you saw his face. Do you know what direction he was looking at?
It looked like a neutral, I couldn't tell, sir. It was dark, it was a light out, but he was facing forward.
Okay.
Could have been into the truck, it could have been over, I couldn't tell you.
Okay, but was he, you said the door was open, so was he standing outside the open door or inside the open door?
He was standing outside the open door facing the driver's seat.
And when you saw him standing outside the open door of that pickup, could you see anybody else?
No.
And when you saw him standing out there, what did you think at that moment?
I thought, one, it was unusual. That's when I realized that something might be, something might be going on.
Okay,
So
okay, what did you do then?
I believe I went into the restroom first, and then I got a flashlight, and I armed myself with my Glock 23,
Okay.
my department issued weapon.
Okay. And did you have your phone with you also?
Yes.
Okay. Did you draw your weapon before you went downstairs?
No.
Where did you keep your weapon?
Holstered on my side.
Holstered on your side?
Yes.
On your right side?
Yes.
You're a right-hander?
Yes.
Is your son a right-hander too?
Yes.
So he keeps his weapon holstered on his right?
Yes.
Okay. And then when you went downstairs, you had a flashlight in your hand and your phone in your hand?
Yes.
Okay, and where did you go?
I went down to the second floor.
Okay, when you're going down the stairs, does that lead into your carport?
Yes.
Okay, did you see your daughter-in-law, Julia, at that point?
I believe she might have been there. I don't recall if she actually was, but I don't recall, sir.
Okay. Do you recall whether she came up to you and said anything? At that point,
No.
when you're coming down the stairs?
No.
Okay. And what was the first thing you saw as soon as you got to your carport and are heading out? Were you inside the gate or outside the gate?
I was inside the gate. I was still close to the stairwell.
Okay, but as soon as you come to the gate, what did you see?
I saw Bert Piolo.
Where was he located?
He was leaning against the truck,
Whose truck?
my son's Dodge Ram truck.
And how did he appear to you when he was leaning against your truck?
He looked frantic, distraught.
Okay, how was he clothed?
He didn't have a shirt on.
Okay. did you see whether he had anything in his hands when he's leaning up against the truck?
I vaguely remember or recall he may have had his shirt balled up.
And, in his hand, and was it pressed against any part of his body?
I don't recall that. I don't think so, sir.
Okay, so you don't think he was holding his shirt up against his chest or any part of his body?
I don't recall.
Okay. And when you saw Officer Bert Piolo lean up against your son's truck, was your son Mark Torre up against the same truck?
I don't recall if he was actually up against the truck, but he was up to the on the driver's side, closer to the wall, the retaining wall. Right at the where the hood meets, or would be closest to the retaining wall.
Okay, so was he was Mark at that point between the retaining wall and his truck? Is that what you're saying?
Close to it. I couldn't tell you exactly where.
Okay. Was he in the corner there, or more towards the corner, or more towards the driver's side of his truck?
I couldn't give you an exact sir.
Okay, so but he wasn't within arm's reach of Officer Piolo, correct?
The truck really wasn't far. If you recall the video, the truck really wasn't that far from the wall.
But my question is a little different though. Was he within arm's reach of Officer Piolo?
I couldn't tell you that.
Now, how far away are you from Officer Piolo when you're observing this?
I just hit the landing onto the second floor from the third floor.
Okay, okay, but you were saying you were standing by your gate, right?
No, I was inside the gate. I
Okay.
just come down the stairway.
All right, so when you're standing in front of your gate before you open it, what did you see?
I saw Bert Piolo against the truck.
Okay. And what was he doing or saying?
He was leaning against the truck, and I don't recall verbatim, but he said, this is what I recall, what I believed he said at the time. LT, please help me. They shot me.
Okay, but you had an opportunity, you were asked, isn't it true that you did listen to the 911 call later at Attorney Ariola's office, correct? Isn't that what you told us?
Yes, sir.
And when you were asked whether you heard on the 911, LT, please help me, I'm dying, he shot me. Isn't it true you said that you heard that on the 911?
The 911 clarified, but I don't recall, at that moment, I didn't recall everything.
I understand, but my question is, when you heard the 911 tapes at Officer Ariola's office, did you hear the 911 say, LT, please help me, I'm dying, he shot me,
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And when you heard him speak to you at that moment, what did Bert do?
After he mentioned that, he turned left and made his way to Markey, and Markey at the same time made his way to Bert.
Okay. As soon as you get past the gate, could you see whether Officer Piolo was wounded?
Yes.
What did you
I
see?
don't recall if I opened the gate yet, but when I saw him turn to his right, roll over to his right, I saw a clear hole right about the nipple line on his right chest area.
Okay, and at that point, or at any point before, as soon as you got to the gate, did Bert hand you the phone?
I don't recall if he handed, I don't recall who actually handed me the phone. It may have been him. It was a blur at that moment.
Do you recall in an interview at my office telling me and my investigators that Bert handed me the phone? Do you recall telling us that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when you hear Bert say what he says and he hands you the phone, what, if anything, did your son Mark say to you at that point?
He didn't say anything. He just proceeded to tell Bert, give me love. And if I recall, he may have told him to get tight. And that's when he proceeded to administer pressure to the wound.
Did he administer pressure to the wound with his hand?
No, with his arm, his left arm. It was,
With his left arm?
yes,
Your son administered pressure with his left arm?
Yes.
How did he administer pressure with his left arm?
by grasping him in a bear hug tight, keeping his left arm tight against the wound.
Keeping Bert's left arm against the wound?
No, my son's,
Well, he's putting up his left arm against the wound.
yes.
Okay. Do you recall at that point, any time before your son is using his left arm to apply pressure, whether he uses Bert's shirt to apply pressure to the wound?
No, if I recall correctly, Bert just dropped the shirt, the balled up shirt.
Did you see whether Mark or Bert wiped the hood with Bert's shirt?
No, sir.
Who's taller, your son Mark or Bert?
Marky.
Now, once Officer Piolo hands you the telephone, who was on the line?
I don't know who was on the line, but it appeared to me it was a female, and my guess it was a dispatcher.
Okay. Did you at any time determine or figure out that it was a 911 dispatch operator?
I kind of figured that, yes, sir.
Okay. And you stayed on the phone the entire time with the 911 dispatcher until the medics, or just before the medics arrived? Or GPD?
Yes, I did. I didn't let that phone go.
Okay. Do you know if anybody else that night called on 911?
No, sir.
Between the time Officer Piolo hands you the phone and you see that he's wounded and the time, I guess, Officer Barry Flores and the rest of GPD and the medics roll up, who was attending to Officer Bert Piolo?
My son was.
Okay. Did you at any time try to apply pressure during the entire time you were on the phone?
I didn't need to. My son was doing a good job of applying that pressure, so trying to keep it under control.
Did anybody else come to help with applying pressure or giving any aid, bring towels or Band-Aids or anything of that sort?
No, sir.
Now, how far away were you when you observed that Officer Piolo had a wound to his chest. What's the closest you got to that, to see his wound?
The only time I saw it was when, as I was approaching the gate, to open up the gate to exit, to render assistance. And at that moment, as I opened the gate, that's when he turned to his right, and that's when I saw that. That was the only time that I saw the wound. And it was clean. There was no bleeding at that moment. There was no bleeding coming out.
Okay, how about, okay, but now you're outside the gate, right? When you see that and
No,
turning?
it's as I'm going towards the gate. And,
Okay, but how about when you're coming out of the gate? Did you see this wound any time?
no, because my son had already proceeded to plug it,
Okay.
cover up and
Okay.
apply pressure.
How about on your driveway there in front of the, let's start with the hood of, your son's hood of his car. Did you see, when you're outside the gate now, right?
Yes,
Okay, because Bert hands you the phone, right?
yes.
All right. Did you see any blood or vomitous-like material on the hood of your son's Ram?
I did see it, sir, but I couldn't tell you if I saw that then or later on that evening.
Okay. Again, when you're outside the gate and Bert hands you the phone, what, any blood did you see on your driveway in front of your son's truck?
Not immediately. Not at that moment. I didn't notice any blood that, as soon as I walked out.
Okay,
It
but now
wasn't until I took the call, when I took my eyes off the two momentarily to tend to the call, to make sure that the emergency responders got to the house.
Okay, let me ask you a different way. When was the first time you noticed that there was blood in your driveway next to the front area of your son's car?
I'd say, I don't know an exact, I couldn't give you, in terms of time, but I would say just moments later after the two embraced.
When was the first time you noticed that there was, or if you did notice, there was blood in the corner of your driveway where there's that retaining wall?
When did I notice that there
When was the first time you noticed that there was blood there?
Maybe not till the next day, sir.
Okay, so you didn't notice any blood there that whole night?
I don't recall. Not there at that corner. I noticed blood elsewhere, but not in that corner.
Where did you say you saw Bert's shirt?
The corner closest to where the wall meets the gate.
Okay. And so, from where the shirt was, along your retaining wall to as far as the door in your son's truck, did you notice any blood on the driveway or on the wall?
The two were there, so I didn't notice. That's perhaps the reason why I didn't notice any blood immediately there, sir. If that's what your question is. I didn't notice it that night.
So you didn't notice that at all that night?
I don't recall. No, that I don't.
Okay. Now you had opportunity to, you watched the body camera with the rest of us in here, right? You've been sitting in the courtroom, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you've seen some of the photos?
Yes.
Correct, okay. That night, about the time, between the time the medics take Bert away and then the time that the medics take your son away, what if any blood stains did you notice on the roadway or in the driveway?
I noticed blood stains between my son's truck and my wife's white SUV. That's where I noticed. That was the first time I recall seeing blood on the scene.
Now, when you told us you did see blood on the hood, and you saw this hole in Officer Bert Piolo's chest.
Yes, sir.
Were you alarmed and concerned that was a serious injury?
Yes.
During the time on the phone, did you ask the 911 operator to please get the medics here to hurry up?
Yes.
At any time, did you try to ask your son to place Officer Piolo down on the ground and apply pressure with his hand, or to use any cloth or the shirt?
No, sir.
From the time you saw Officer Piolo leaned against your son's truck until he was taken away by the medics, what, if anything, else did you hear Bert say to you?
First of all, sir, they weren't leaning against the truck. My son had his back against the wall. Bert was up against him, holding him. They were not leaning against the truck. Bert, he kept saying, "I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die," and I told him he's not gonna die. Tried to comfort him.
Do you recall whether hearing Bert say at any time that you were, from the time you got the phone from Bert until the time the medics arrived, did you ever hear him say, another time, he shot me?
No.
When you were handed the phone by Bert, who was all on the driveway? Who was all present on the driveway?
I couldn't tell you just how long my wife and my daughter-in-law were in the driveway, but at some point they were. I couldn't tell you with certainty that they were there from beginning to end.
Okay, but my question is a little different. How about when you get the phone from Bert, okay, who was present on the driveway outside the gate with?
Outside the gate, sir, nobody was outside the gate.
Who?
I don't recall anybody else outside the gate but the three of us.
Who are the three?
Myself, my son, and Bert.
Do you recall the 911 operator asking whether a gun was secured?
I don't recall. She may have, because you know, it would be. I know that it's typical that before any Guam Fire Department personnel arrive at the scene must be cleared before such time they can make entry. And just based on my experience, that would, I believe, you know, she did ask me that. I told her that it was not, it was okay, it was clear.
So you told her it was secured and clear?
I believe I did, yes.
But you didn't know that for a fact, correct?
I didn't know that for a fact. I didn't see any gun on either person other than myself.
Okay. When did you first detect whether your son was intoxicated?
I didn't smell any alcohol on him. Probably early on, you know, when I first saw them, the two of them.
Okay. Do you recall saying that later on you smelled alcohol on your son and thought he might have been intoxicated by it when he was on the tailgate? You watched the body camera with us?
I may have said that, sir, but it wasn't. It wasn't prominent. It was faint, if anything. I don't believe I said that it was.
Did you believe your son was intoxicated?
Yes.
At the time he was at the tailgate?
Yes.
Okay. Let me show you a clip from the body camera. Can I cue up to and direct your attention to the monitor. And this will be People's Exhibit 4B, the second video, right? Second video. And queuing it up to. What's our number? 71?
750.
We're queuing up to 750. Second video of People's Exhibit 4B. Can you make that longer? Actually, look at this.
You might give me just a sec? That's cool.
To be quite honest with you, based on my experiences, it's a 50-50. Because when we were holding him, I could hear the sounds.
He passed out, right? Did he pass out?
Bert?
Bert passed out, right?
Oh yeah, we were holding him. He went down, but he still had function because when I put him on, he was able to hold his chest and he was holding his legs back and forth. So it's a 50-50 because it looks like it's right here. And the hard part is just trying to get what actually happened.
Yeah.
But well, the one thing that we don't want us to do is get in the hole.
Okay, thank you. Lieutenant Torre.
Sir.
You asked Officer Edwards if you could speak to your son alone, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And what, if anything, did he tell you about what happened?
He did not tell me anything about what happened, sir.
What were you saying to him?
I was trying to reassure him. He was obviously distraught, and it appeared that he was hyperventilating, so I just wanted to make sure he was okay.
You didn't ask him what happened?
I did not.
You didn't ask him to watch what you're saying because Officer Edwards is talking to you or any of the officers?
No, sir. I did not. That's not something I would do.
Even as a father, that's not, you wouldn't do that?
No, sir. I had to separate. At that moment, I had to make a distinction of whether or not I was going to be father or police officer. I can't be both. So at that moment, I decided to be his father.
So you didn't tell him to be quiet, say nothing?
No.
Okay. You saw that clip. You were searching your son for his weapon, right?
Yes.
Is that because you know that sometimes he carries a concealed weapon?
Yes.
And what does he carry?
I believe it's a Glock 27.
So at that point, you knew that you could feel, could you feel that he had a holster on him?
Yes.
Okay, and that it was empty?
Yes.
So were you concerned or alarmed that his firearm is missing?
Yes.
Did you tell anybody right after that my son's firearm is missing?
I don't recall if I did. No, I don't recall that, sir.
Lieutenant Torre, on July 13, 2015, where were you assigned, sir?
I was the commander of Dededo Precinct Command.
And all of the police officers that responded to your house that morning of July 13, 2015, were they part of the Dededo Precinct Command?
The patrol officers were, yes.
And who was the field supervisor or senior police officer on the scene that morning of July 13, 2015?
The initial responders were the Bravo, the field supervisor was PO3 Barry K. Flores.
And how is Officer Barry K. Flores related to you, sir?
He's my mom's cousin. He's my uncle.
He's your uncle?
Yes.
Do you believe that he should have recused or conflicted himself out as the supervisor on that scene?
That's a lack of foundation.
He's been in the force 18 years. And
Sustained.
did you share any information with the field supervisor, the Bravo, Officer Bert Flores, when he was there at any time that night in connection with this case?
No, I don't recall, sir. You may have asked me what happened, and my response, if he did ask me, that would have been, I don't know. But I don't.
But you have no recollection whether you said anything, though?
Only when I was interviewed by Civilian Police Reserve Officer Ryan Mantelona.
Okay, but my question is, so you have no memory of telling the field supervisor about any piece of information connected to that morning?
I don't recall if I actually mentioned anything about my observation. No.
Do you recall whether Officer Flores shared any information to you about what he had observed or heard that morning of July 13, 2015?
No.
Now, you heard Officer Barry Flores ask your son whether it was self-inflicted. Do you know if anybody that was present or yourself provided any information related to that, to Officer Flores?
No.
When you asked to speak to your son alone, and you asked Officer Edwards to stand back, what, if anything, did you think your son was in trouble?
At that point, I couldn't tell, sir. I was concerned about his well-being. Of course, I was concerned about Officer Piolo, too.
You've also served as an investigator of CID.
Yes.
How long were you in CID?
On and off. I've had maybe 2 tours there, maybe 5 or 6 years collectively.
Okay, and based on everything in your experience, you did not believe your son could be in trouble at that point when you're speaking to him alone?
Could be in trouble?
Yes, that was my
No.
question. Did you ask Bert at any time before he left who hurt you or who shot you?
No,
Did you ask your son who hurt or shot Officer Bert Piolo?
no,
So you were not concerned that there could be any other shooter or person around when you were on the phone with 911?
I was prepared to attempt to defend if necessary. My concern was to get Bert help, sir.
Okay, so but my question's a little different. Were you concerned that there could be some other person around who did the injury to Officer Bert Piolo?
I thought that was a possibility, yes.
Did you ever provide that thought or possibility as information to Officer Flores or any officer there at that time to investigate it?
No, I don't think so.
When you were on the phone with 911, how far away were you from when you're talking with the 911 dispatch and you corrected the address, right? You gave him the correct address, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How far away were you when you're standing from Officer Piolo and your son?
I was probably within 10 to 15 feet, sir.
Okay. So is it your testimony from the time Officer Piolo handed you his phone until the medics carried him away in the gurney that your son was bear hugging him the entire time?
Could you repeat the question, please?
So from the time that Officer Piolo handed you his phone to talk to 911 until Officer Piolo was carried away in the gurney, did your son bear hug him that entire time period?
Yes. He did not leave him. Not for a second.
And why did you think that was the proper way to apply pressure to that chest wound?
Well, sir, considering the circumstances and with all due respect, that wasn't a classroom. It wasn't a textbook situation. There are other factors to consider, and at that moment I felt that was proper, and my son had control. In that hole that he had him in, he had control.
So by bear hugging him, he had him in control.
He was able to maintain pressure in that manner by keeping him in that.
To use your word though, he had control of Bert Piolo with that bear hug?
To keep control, yes, so that he wouldn't get away. Bert
Okay,
was.
so he wouldn't get away. So if Bert wanted to get away, he couldn't get away because he's in a bear hug, right?
Let him answer the question.
Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead and answer the question.
Repeat the question, please, sir.
When your son held Bert in a bear hug, he had him under control, and so even if Bert wanted to get away, he couldn't get away.
I think Bert could have gotten away if he wanted to.
Even with the chest wound?
Yes.
You did not believe he was gravely or seriously injured?
I believed he was seriously injured, yes, sir.
once you determined that your son was intoxicated by the tailgate, do you still believe that that was the proper remedy for him to apply a bear hug to Bert Piolo?
By any means necessary, sir, to try and stop that bleeding. And at that moment, I believe he was doing as good a job as anyone could have in that situation.
And until the medics came, until the medics and the police came, no one else was rendering direct aid or assistance to Bert other than your son?
Trying to console him. I know that I had, by keeping close eye on Bert and Mark's application of pressure, I stayed close to them to keep Bert mentally strong. As I mentioned earlier, he kept saying, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die. And I wanted him to not believe that he was gonna die. I made every effort to try to comfort him and make sure that he believed that he would survive that, sir.
So
I said, El, you're not gonna die. You're not gonna die, El. That's what I call Bert. I don't call him Bert or Bertie or Albert. When I address Bert, as he's more commonly known or referred to, I call him El.
short for Albert.
Yes.
And do you recall whether one of his last words is "I'm Matai"?
I don't recall that specifically, but I do recall clearly that he repeatedly stated, I'm gonna die.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sir.
You're asleep at about 2 a.m. in your room with your wife in bed upstairs at the Torre residence on the top floor, correct?
Yes, sir.
And your house, your room is seen in some of these pictures. Second floor, 2 big windows facing out towards the roadway.
Good work, please.
So third floor. And the second floor is on the same level as the garage, carport, and driveway.
Sir.
Now, your wife wakes you up because your phone is ringing or buzzing, you know?
I didn't hear it. Just her with me.
And you pick up the phone.
She handed me, I don't recall if she handed me the phone or if I eventually picked it up. I did answer the phone.
And could you tell already it was Julia's number calling, or?
No, I didn't look at the number. It's programmed, so it's got my daughter on name.
Okay. So, first thing you hear is,
Julia's voice.
she says,
Dad, can you come down here, please?
and you're still lying in bed.
Yes.
What are you wearing in bed?
Shorts and maybe a t-shirt.
You get up. The next thing you do is you get up and you look right out that window.
Yes, after I stand up.
Okay. And you could see clearly from your window the truck facing a certain position in front of the driveway.
Yes.
And you see Marky's face standing outside the driver's door, although the door is open.
Yes.
Now, do you see Bert at any time?
No.
How long were you standing in the window looking down at what's going on?
Just a second.
Then you go into the bathroom or the restroom to change?
Yes.
And do you have to change your entire outfit? Or
No, I
were you
think-
wearing shorts that you could take downstairs?
I don't remember if I changed my shorts, but I did put on at least one other article of clothing, either changed out or added.
And you also took your gun
Yes.
and your phone.
Yes.
and then you go downstairs, and you land on the garage floor, second floor. However, the stairs are all the way in the back of the garage, right?
Yes.
So it's about 10, 15 feet from the gate,
Maybe
Or
closer
more.
to 20, sir.
about 20 feet from the
Closer,
gate.
I would say closer to 20.
And so when you come to the landing, the first thing you see is,
When I turn to my right, I see Bert outside the gate against the truck.
the hood
Yes.
or the side, the hood of the truck.
Yes, sir.
Do you recognize then whether he's wearing a shirt?
He's not wearing a shirt.
Do you recognize then whether he's holding what later was found to be the shirts crumpled up?
Yes.
Where is he holding that?
I don't recall which hand he had it in. I just recall the shirt being dropped as he made his way to hold on to Marky.
And are you still located at the bottom of the stairs in the back of the garage? Or have you already approached the gate at this point?
I approached the gate at that point.
Did you stop, or did you stop at the bottom of the garage and walk and pause for a moment, or did you just continue to the gate?
I don't recall, sir.
So the first thing you see is Bert leaning up against the hood of the Dodge truck. And where is Mark?
He's up on the driver's side corner of the hood, like in between that and the retaining wall.
And at this point, when you see both of them, anybody saying anything at this point?
At that point,
Yes. When you first see them,
I don't recall anybody saying anything.
do you see anybody with phones in their hand?
I don't recall that.
At what point do you receive the phone and talk to the 911 person?
When I leave the gate, when I open up the gate.
Okay, so you open up the gate, and your recollection is that you may have received it from Bert.
Yes.
And at this time, when you receive the phone, what is Mark?
He is up at the corner, close to the corner of the Dodge pickup truck, and in between the Dodge pickup truck, the driver's side front corner, and the retaining wall.
Okay. So at this point, from the time you first saw Mark at the driver's side of the truck outside your window, until the time you came down the stairs and to the gate, both Mark and Bert Piolo have moved from the truck, from Bert's truck area, driver's door, to the front gate.
Yes, sir.
And they're not attached. Mark is not hugging him or holding him up at this time. They're separate.
Yes.
Bert may have a phone in his hand. Was he talking at the time to 911?
I don't, no, I couldn't say that, sir, with certainty. I don't know if he was, I don't recall that.
But he was holding at the time the shirts.
Yes.
And then the next thing that happens is Bert and Mark eventually end up together in some type of a hold.
Yes.
Now, when you say you first saw them with Mark using his arm, which arm and where was that arm placed in relation to the wound that you saw?
Left arm, inner portion of the left arm, pressed up against Bert's side here, where the wound that I saw would be.
So how was Bert facing him? Let me ask you this. Was it the same positioning as we saw in the body cam video when Officer Edwards first got there? Same method of Bert
Yes.
facing that way and
Similar, sir.
similar.
Yes.
And during this period of time that Marky is holding him, I guess all the way until the medics arrived, you indicated that he was holding him up this entire period of time, correct?
Yes.
Never let him go,
Never let him go.
but that Bert was moving around.
Yes.
Bert was not, however, saying things like, "Get him away from me."
No,
He wasn't fighting with Marky to get away from him.
no.
And when you say that Mark had control, are you saying that Mark had control of the situation or of Bert?
Situation,
And the situation being
life-saving,
maintaining pressure.
yes.
And this entire time, again, from the time you see them until the time the medics arrive, you are on the phone as well with 911 trying to get them to the correct location.
Yes,
And you've heard the 911 calls and you can hear yourself talking to the operator.
yes.
And at the time you approached the gate, before you got out, is the time you said you saw Bert turn to the right and you could see the gunshot wound.
Yes,
He wasn't wearing a shirt and it didn't appear to be bleeding out.
it was not bleeding, it appeared to be a clean hole.
And had he just dropped the shirts when you saw that, or was he still holding the shirts or something?
I believe he was still holding the shirt at the time because it was as he was making his way towards Marky, where that's where I recall seeing the shirt drop.
So he made his way towards Marky.
Yes,
And it's then that Marky applied pressure with his arm.
yes.
At any time from that point, when he started to apply pressure, did they ever leave that area?
No,
So all the way until the medics arrived and the body cams turned on, they were still all in the front of the Dodge Ram in the driveway.
yes,
I noticed in the video, there appeared to be carport garage lights on.
yes.
Are you aware of whether those lights were on when you went downstairs and when you got to the gate, or did you have to turn it on?
I don't think I turned it on, I believe they may have been on already.
But it was still about 2 in the morning
Yes.
and dark outside.
Yes,
And you indicated you don't recall seeing all the blood on the different areas as you've seen them on the photos, correct?
yes,
And in particular, you did not see any of the blood on the ground around Bert's truck or by the trash can? Is that correct? Or did you see those?
I saw that later, sir.
Later?
Yes.
Like after police had already arrived?
Right.
Or,
Right. But what I did see was the blood that was in between the two vehicles parked, my son's Dodge Ram truck and my wife's white SUV.
oh, towards the back?
Yes.
So the back of your wife's SUV?
Yeah, wherever it was in between, that's what I recall, visualize. That's what I,
What about the blood on the wall or on that side of the Dodge Ram?
I didn't notice that until later on.
And you weren't looking for it either?
I was not looking for that.
Your concern was at the time?
To get help for Bert.
And you were aware in discussing it with the 911 operator that they had gone to Chalanirencia?
Yes, sir.
And as Derido Precinct Commander, you're aware that Chalanirencia is located how far away?
I would say at least 8 miles away.
And so you were aware when you were on the phone with 911 that they're still 8 miles away.
At least.
Now, you saw the videotape just played where you're asked Officer Edwards, John, you mind if you just give me a sec?
Yes.
And then you're seen holding Mark's head and talking to him.
Yes.
What are you saying?
I'm trying to console him, just reassure him that everything is going to be okay, and that Bert will be okay too.
And prior to this part of the video and the body cam, we're already calling the medics for Mark because he's hyperventilating.
Yes.
What injury did Mark suffer that makes him hyperventilate?
That night, I could only, I recall, during our SWAT training, that he did sustain some injury there, and I believe that may have been what was causing the reaction.
And when was your SWAT training?
I beg your pardon?
When was your SWAT training?
It was from February 9th through April 10th of 2015.
And what type of injury did he receive during that training?
It was as I understand it, was a chest injury, just from the extended physical exertion.
And is it your understanding is that that's why he was having those chest pains and breathing heavily?
Yes, at that moment, that was my belief.
Did you ask him where's his gun?
Yes,
And is that when you were tapping his holster area?
yes.
And did he tell you where's his gun? Did he
didn't
answer
know.
you?
He didn't know where it was at.
What did he say?
He just gave me that look like he doesn't know.
Did he say, I don't know, or did he just give you a look?
He may have said, I don't know, but the look on his face just told me that he didn't know.
Now, was he answering your questions or your comments coherently? Was he giving you any verbal answers or just?
He was kind of mumbling, just kind of acknowledging, just like, okay, Dad, I got you. I'll be all right. Because all I was doing was just trying to, at that moment, just trying to keep him positive and believe that everything was going to be okay. And that Bert was going to be okay too, and that he was going to be okay too.
And as a matter of fact, it was shortly after this part of the video where they found the gun,
Yes.
and you saw that on the video, showing Officer Edwards flashing into the gun.
Yes.
Did you ever see either of these individuals, Mr. Piolo or Mark, holding two phones at once?
No.
And when you were asked by the chief prosecutor about your communications with Barry Flores, it's your testimony you didn't discuss any particular details,
That's correct.
and that he did or did not ask you what happened. He did not?
No.
Nothing further at this time, Your Honor, subject to recall.
All right. Redirect. Thank you. You mentioned SWAT training that you and your son were, did SWAT, did you and your son do that SWAT training together?
Yes, sir.
The one between February 9th and April 2015, where
Yes,
you
sir.
said he sustained an injury, but he graduated, correct?
Yes, sir.
He must have been very proud. He met all the performance requirements.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so that SWAT training involves working with more high-powered weapons and explosives and simulating like sort of combat situations or shootings or loud sounds and flashbang type grenades.
No explosions. No explosions. Flashbangs, yes, but in terms of
Flashbangs? Okay.
yes.
Now, yeah, as you were answering questions, you said with Attorney Areola, Let me see if I recall your testimony. Yeah, you have your gun on you, holstered, and you came down with your flashlight and your phone in your hand, right? And when you got down to the bottom of the stairs, you turned your left or right? What was it?
To my right, sir.
To your right, and you were able to first see Officer Bert Piolo?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And and when you got closer to the gate, you could see that he was in distress, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you have your phone in your hand. Did you make the 911 call at that point?
No.
Okay. What did you do with your phone when you walked outside the gate?
I don't recall if I put it in my pocket. I may have put it in my pocket. I don't recall, sir.
Now, I think you said a couple of times that you do recall seeing blood between your son's truck and your wife's white SUV. Did you see that on any of the photos that were shown up here? Any blood between the two vehicles on the driveway?
I don't recall. That's just what I recall from that night, sir.
Okay, but
I'm giving you my recollection of that night. Now, as far as the video, I couldn't tell you.
or any of the photos that were shown on the. At any time when you were near Bert and your son, when he was in the bear hug, did you not hear Bert say, fuck you or leave me alone, or anything, words to that effect?
No, sir.
But you do recall seeing your son's two shirts shown here and his under t-shirt, the white one, correct?
Yes,
You
sir.
saw that? And so you saw a lot of blood on there, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so, and that was on the upper chest area, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so, and all that blood didn't come from your son, that came from Bert?
I would assume yes.
And that must have came during the bear hugging?
Yes.
Do you recall if you ever heard Bert the entire, when you were on the 911 call the entire time, did you ever hear Bert crying?
It sounded like he was crying, but he was obviously very hurt, sir. And
So, did you ever, during the entire time that you were on the 911 call, did you happen to observe whether Bert was grimacing or in pain?
he was moaning. I recall
And you
that.
heard that he was moaning?
Yes.
And so he was in extreme pain?
I would imagine, yes, sir.
So do you agree that he was still able to get out of that bear hug?
Sir, he went to Marky. He hugged him.
But my
two at
question's a
the
little
same time.
different, sir. Question's a little different.
Yes, I believe he would have been able to get away if he really wanted to.
I have no further questions.
All right, that's okay.